Hey, everybody, and welcome back. We love to do deep dives on this show, and today we're diving into a book that's all about rebuilding after a relationship ends.
That's right. It's called Rebuilding
Yeah.
When Your Relationship Ends by Bruce Fisher and Robert Alberti.
Now, this book really digs deep into the reasons why relationships fall apart
Yeah.
and offers some seriously insightful advice on how to move on.
Yeah. And it's not just for people going through divorce.
Yeah.
It's really for anyone who's experienced the ending of a romantic relationship, no matter what the circumstances.
Exactly. And one of the things that I found so fascinating about this book is how it explores the connection between our childhood experiences and our adult
Oh,
relationships.
yeah, definitely.
Like, who knew that our parents' relationship could still be messing with our love lives, years later?
It's true, though, right?
For true.
It's more common than you might think.
Yeah.
The book argues that if we didn't experience enough love or had some sort of like unhealthy family dynamics growing up, we might end up seeking that missing love in all the wrong places.
Oh, that makes total sense.
And that can lead to some pretty unhealthy patterns in our adult relationships.
So it's like we're drawn to what's familiar, even if it's not good for us.
Exactly. And the book actually uses this great example to illustrate this point.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it.
It's about a couple named Nancy and Jack.
Okay.
Nancy was the classic over-responsible one,
Mhm.
always taking care of everything. And Jack, well, he was kind of the opposite.
The underfunctioner.
You could say that he became more and more irresponsible over time, and eventually Nancy just got fed up and ended things.
Sound like a classic overgiver-undertaker dynamic.
It really is. But the interesting thing is, the book suggests that Nancy might have been subconsciously recreating the dynamic that she learned in her own family,
Whoa.
even if it wasn't a healthy one.
So maybe she saw a similar pattern between her own parents and thought that's just how relationships are supposed to work.
Exactly.
That's kind of scary when you think about it.
Yeah, it is a little bit, but that's why it's so important to become aware of these patterns.
For sure. So we've talked about family influences now. What about the second reason that relationships tend to go south?
Ah, yes. This one is all about being stuck in the period of rebellion.
Okay. The teenage rebellion phase.
You know that phase where teenagers are like pushing boundaries and craving independence?
Yeah.
Well, imagine that energy, but in an adult relationship.
Oh.
Some people experience this kind of delayed rebellion in adulthood, especially when they feel trapped or controlled in their relationships.
Interesting.
It's like they're still trying to break free from those teenage constraints, but this time it's playing out with their partner.
So it's not really about the partner themselves, it's about those unresolved issues from their past.
The partner might just be an unfortunate stand-in for a parent or an authority figure from their adolescence.
Oh, that's deep.
It is, and it can manifest in different ways, like constantly questioning their partner's decisions or picking fights over seemingly small things, or just generally resisting any kind of commitment or structure.
I know a few people who seem to sabotage their relationships over and over again. Maybe this is what's going on beneath the surface.
It's definitely a possibility. All right, so we've got family influences, we've got delayed rebellion. What about that third relationship killer?
Hit me with it.
This one has to do with getting stuck in what psychologist Susan Campbell calls the power struggle stage of relationships.
Okay, I've definitely been there.
Haven't we all? She outlines 5 stages that relationships go through, and this is where things tend to get really messy. It's that feeling of constantly butting heads with your partner, like you're always trying to change them.
Oh, yeah, that constant tug of war.
Exactly. And the thing is, it often boils down to our own baggage.
Our own stuff.
We project our own unresolved issues onto our partners and try to fix them instead of, looking inward.
Oof, that's a tough pill to swallow.
It is, but it's also incredibly liberating once you realize it.
So I've got family influences, delayed rebellion, and power struggles. That's a lot to unpack. So where do we go from here? How do we start to move on after a breakup, knowing all of this?
Well, that's exactly what the book delves into next.
Perfect.
The process of accepting the breakup and moving forward.
Okay, so
That's what we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive.
all right, listeners, stay tuned. We're about to uncover some strategies for stepping out of the shadows of a breakup and starting to rebuild. This is where it gets really interesting.
It does.
Welcome back, everyone. So we just uncovered some pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Why relationships end. And now we're going to talk about how to move on.
Yeah, that's where things can feel really overwhelming, right?
Absolutely. It's like you're dealing with this whirlwind of emotions, and it's tempting to just want to fast forward through the pain.
I hear that. And, this book, Rebuilding, it doesn't sugarcoat. It It acknowledges that healing takes time.
Right.
And that first step is accepting the reality of the breakup.
Yeah, which can feel impossible.
Totally. But it's not about, pretending that you're not hurting or trying to like force yourself to get over it quickly.
Right.
It's about acknowledging the loss and allowing yourself to grieve.
I think that's where a lot of people struggle. They try to bury their feelings or distract themselves.
Yeah, for sure.
But eventually that pain is going to surface.
It will. And the book really emphasizes that self-worth plays a crucial role in acceptance.
Okay, so if you truly believe in your own value, it's easier to accept the breakup without letting it, shatter your sense of self.
Exactly.
That makes sense, but how do we actually boost our self-worth, especially after a breakup when it's probably taken a hit?
Right. It's so easy to feel rejected and start questioning everything about yourself.
Totally, like what I do wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the book offers some really practical strategies. One of them is to make a list of your positive qualities.
Okay.
And I'm not talking about superficial things here,
Yeah.
Think about your core values, your strengths, the things that make you you.
I like that.
Yeah,
Like, what are you good at? What are you passionate about? What do people appreciate about you?
exactly. It's like creating this little self-affirmation cheat sheet to remind yourself of all the amazing things that you bring to the table.
Love it.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to ask trusted friends or family members for their input.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's easier to see our own strengths when they're reflected back to us.
That's so true.
And the book also talks about the importance of genuinely accepting compliments.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of brushing them off or downplaying them, try to really absorb them and let them sink in.
I am so guilty of deflecting compliments. It's
Yeah.
like I don't want to seem arrogant or full of myself, but really it's just about acknowledging the good things that people see in us.
Exactly.
Right.
And speaking of acknowledging the good, if there are children involved, the book stresses the importance of honest and age-appropriate communication.
Oh, man, that's going to be such a difficult conversation to have.
It is.
I can only imagine how heartbreaking it would be to explain a breakup to your kids.
It's tough, but the authors provide some helpful guidelines for navigating this sensitive topic, It's important to reassure the children that the breakup is not their fault
Right.
and that both parents still love them unconditionally.
So it's about creating a safe space for them to express their feelings without feeling like they have to, take sides or fix anything.
Exactly. And it's okay to acknowledge that you're also going through a difficult time, but that you're all in this together.
Okay, so we've talked about acceptance and self-worth, but what about those big, scary emotions that tend to take over after a breakup?
Right.
The fear, the grief, the anger. How do we deal with all of that?
Well, the book actually encourages us to lean into those emotions.
Really?
Yeah, to acknowledge and process them in a healthy way rather than trying to suppress them.
See, I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. They're so afraid of those intense feelings that they try to numb them out or distract themselves.
Yeah, or just avoid them altogether.
Which ultimately prolongs the healing process.
It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater.
Okay.
Eventually it's going to pop back up with even more force. So the book reframes fear, in particular, as a potential ally rather than an enemy.
Fear as an ally, how is that even possible?
Well, the author suggests that fear can actually protect us from making impulsive decisions, or rushing into another relationship before we're ready.
So it's like that inner voice of caution saying, hey, slow down, take care of yourself.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that fear is a natural part of the process, but it doesn't have to control us. We
Okay,
can use it as a guide, as information to help us make wise choices.
that's a good way to look at it. So what about grief and anger? Those can feel so overwhelming after a breakup.
Yeah, they definitely can. The book emphasizes that grief is a natural response to loss. And it's important to allow ourselves to feel those waves of sadness, emptiness, longing,
For sure.
And it's also common to experience anger after a breakup, and the key is to express it in a healthy way.
So not necessarily bottling it up or taking it out on others, but finding constructive outlets for that anger.
Exactly. Things like journaling or exercising or talking to a therapist.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's about channeling that anger in a way that's productive rather than destructive.
So the book encourages us to view anger as a signal that something needs to be addressed.
Yes.
Whether it's setting boundaries, communicating our needs, or taking steps to protect ourselves.
Exactly.
This is all incredibly helpful. It feels like we're moving from that darkness of the breakup into a space of healing and understanding.
Hope so.
But where do we go from here? How do we
Right.
actually start rebuilding our lives and maybe even opening ourselves up to love again?
That's a great question, and that's the focus of the next part of our deep dive.
Perfect.
We'll explore how this process of rebuilding can lead to personal growth and potentially even healthier relationships down the line.
Listeners, hang in there. The best is yet to come. We'll be back to talk about how to grow into a better version of yourself after a breakup.
Welcome back to the
What?
show.
All right. So we've talked about why relationships end and how to start healing. But now let's talk about how to move forward.
Yeah, this is where things get really exciting.
All right. It's like, okay, I've gone through the breakup. I've done some inner work now. What?
Exactly. And this book, Rebuilding, it doesn't just focus on mending the past. It actually lays out a path for building stronger, healthier relationships in the future.
Okay. I'm all ears. How do we do that?
Well, the book starts by helping you understand what a healthy relationship really looks like.
Okay.
It introduces the work of Virginia Satter,
Oh, yeah.
a brilliant family therapist who identified 7 different relationship models,
7.
but only one of them is truly healthy.
So what are some of these other models and what makes the healthy one so special?
Well, you have models like the A-frame relationship, where partners are overly dependent on each other and lose their individual identities. There's the smothering relationship where one partner tries to control the other, the blaming relationship where it's always one person's fault, and so on.
So most of these models involve some level of dysfunction.
Exactly.
What does a healthy relationship look like?
In a healthy love relationship, both partners are whole individuals. They come together out of love and a desire to share their lives, not because they need each other to feel complete.
Got it.
They maintain their own identities, interests, friendships, while also nurturing the bond that they share.
So it's like two trees growing side by side, their branches intertwining, but their roots strong and independent.
Exactly.
I love that analogy, but after a breakup, it's easy to feel broken, not whole. How do we bridge that gap?
That's where the idea of growing relationships comes in.
Growing relationship.
These are relationships that help us heal, learn, and develop our capacity for healthy love.
Okay, so they're like stepping stones to more fulfilling relationships in the future.
You could say that, and there are 2 types, therapeutic and passionate.
Okay, what's the difference?
Therapeutic growing relationships are those with friends, family members, mentors, anyone who offers support and helps us process our emotions in a healthy way.
I see. And passionate growing relationships.
Those involve romantic connection and can be incredibly healing, especially after a breakup.
Ah, so that's where the excitement comes in.
Right. But here's the important part. The book cautions us not to idealize these passionate growing relationships or mistake them for the one.
Okay.
They serve a purpose, which is to help us grow and learn not to be a quick fix for our heartache.
So it's about enjoying the connection, but also being mindful of the bigger picture personal growth and learning how to love in a healthier way.
Exactly.
Wow, this has been such an eye-opening conversation. I feel like I'm walking away with a whole new perspective on relationships.
Me too.
So if we could leave our listeners with just one takeaway from our deep dive into rebuilding, what would it be?
Embrace the opportunity for growth. This breakup, as painful as it is, has the potential to make you stronger, wiser, and more capable of creating the kind of love you truly deserve.
That's beautiful. And for those of you who want to explore these ideas further, we highly recommend checking out Rebuilding. When your relationship ends, it's a truly insightful guide to navigating the complexities of heartbreak and coming out stronger on the other side.
Absolutely. And as you embark on this journey of rebuilding, ask yourself, what's one small step you can take today to start nurturing yourself and your capacity for love?
That's a great question to ponder. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep believing in the power of love and growth.